It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how is it going? And welcome to the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. It is Wednesday, April 3rd, and so happy for you joining us. We are ready to start another day together with the Lord. So subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So today we are having an exciting podcast for you with Health is Happiness, the Bible history word study, and of course commentaries, updates, and news on what is happening around the world in this history today. Whew. All right, everyone, how are you doing? Yes, it is hump day, the middle of the week. It is Wednesday, and of course, we have big service tonight, so hope you guys are really going to enjoy all these things. Don't forget, just as tomorrow is Thursday, we have Q&A Thursday every week, so get those questions ready. Send them to me whenever you can. And for today's video, if you haven't done it yet, leave a like and comment. Just want to hear how you are doing. What's your feedback, questions, comments, anything else? Please leave them. Would love to hear what you are thinking and what's going on in your life too. Just super happy for everyone joining us every weekday on the Morning Star Drive. So let's get up and support each other each and every day. This week's Sunday message title is Resurrection of Jesus' Spirit and the Spirit's Advent. Amen. So it's already the middle of the week. Hope you guys are enjoying your first week of April. Yes, I'm continuously getting more and more comments about the April Fool's prank. And then I'm getting comments on my Instagram about the dogs getting revenge on me by pooing and peeing all over the floor on what do you call it, on April Fool's Day. But you know what's kind of cool? Actually, Harry, it's the brown, I think the Scottish Terrier, the brown dog. It was his birthday yesterday. He became 1 year old, so he's super young. He's just a puppy. So, you know, I understand him peeing on the ground because he's so young. And, you know, still a baby, but, Muji, which is the Shiba Inu, right? I think, you know, he's already older. He's like over 2 years old and stuff like that also. So he's got no excuse for just pooping on the ground. Actually, I know why he poops on the ground. And one of the reasons is he hates water. So what happens is he has a space outside on the balcony to go poo and pee. He's got like little grass patch and everything else to do his business. But when it rains, he doesn't want to go outside. So when it rains, he's like, and he just does everything indoors. And that's why he does it like that. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's just he has a fear of rain, I guess, which is kind of weird for a dog, don't you think? But yeah, I am very, very thankful and grateful for everyone for all their wonderful comments on the April Fools. And I hope that everyone, I don't know, did you guys do any April Fools yesterday? Not yesterday, on Monday. Was it just me, or did you guys do anything for, any pranks you did on your family or friends, anything else? Would love to hear it in the comment section below. Let me know if you did any type of pranks, and were they as successful as my April Fool's prank? Right? You know what? Everyone says, oh, you got me this time, but you're not going to get me next year. You know what? A year is a long time away, and everyone gets duped more than once. It's just normal. Because, you know, most people don't think about April Fools as a real April Fools. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not really like an important thing on our hearts and our minds. And that's why it's kind of like, you know, we get each other all the time. But yeah, either way. Today, I will, right after I record here, I'm going to be heading straight to church. And I will be prepping for the live stream for YouTube. So I will be going to church early to set up the studio. I can't wait for this because that's going to, you know, I'm very, very excited by YouTube at this moment. It's week 3 is done right now. Right? And for those of you guys in Asia, when you guys listen to this podcast, because it comes out at 5:30 a.m. on Wednesday, that means that most of you, the podcast will start, the live stream will start in a few hours, like around 9 a.m. Malaysia, 10 a.m. Korea. But for those of you in America, if you listen to this on Wednesday, it means the live stream is already over. But if you hear this, like it'll be around 2:30 or 3:30 p.m. in America is when this kind of comes out, I think. Will it be 2:30? Yeah, well, no, it'll be around 2:30 p.m. Well, it doesn't matter. It's just, we all know that the live stream for the American Canada side is 6 p.m. In LA and 9 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so it is going to come out. I'm super excited about this. I think that it's coming off to a very, very good start. And, one thing I really want to do after hearing what Sunsteam's goal was, like to get 1 million internet followers, I'm just like, man, let's get God what he really wants, right? So the first milestone is 10,000 subscribers for this channel. So let's go. Let's do this. And of course, what's the fastest way to do it? It's what everyone has been doing such a good job at right now. It's watching the live streams or the videos, liking and commenting, and also sharing the videos with 3 people per day. So let's go, right? Remember, I got videos coming out every single day. So there's new things you can send to people every single day. And if you like them, send them to people you think that would really enjoy them and stuff. This is made for newcomers and for members. This is for all people. This is more of not so much, like this is not like 30 lessons or anything along that line. This is more of the digestion of the word. How can we put the word into our life? What are the different questions we can answer through the word that we've been given, right? Just an update about my letters to Sunsteam. I wrote my letter about my mission, the dream I had, and then on top of it, for PROVI and the media, when I talked to the Internet Ministry Department, because I was going to send it together with them, they said that last week they said that Sunsteam wasn't taking letters. So me and the Internet Ministry Department are waiting for the green light before the letters are sent in. So there most likely will be a delay, if anything, to get a response from Sunsteam, but I will definitely discuss with IMD or Korea HQ about how to proceed. So, many people, thank you so much for your comments and for the poll, which was 97%, that it was beneficial to them. A lot of people are telling me the details of how important PROVI and the media was to them, especially last year. So, I understand and I know how much it's helped people. So let's just wait and see what happens in the future, right? I'm not going to know when that. I'm not sure when that response will come. So I'm just going to make sure that I am doing things properly. I will talk to IMD, Korean HQ, see what the things that I should be able to do and stuff like that also. Okay. One thing that I'm going to tell you guys right now is just everything that's happened over the last 3 weeks. Like 3 weeks, we've been doing this, the restart of the YouTube channel for the last 3 weeks. I am so thankful to God. I really am. And I realize more and more how much God really provides. Like He's doing, I am so thankful right now over the last 3 weeks. God has always given me what I need. And sometimes He gives me what I really want, right? Sometimes He does. But what I need, 100%, I'm getting it. Like I am getting so much amazing support from members all around the world for internet ministry. It is really incredible that God has inspired, people's hearts to help me in many different ways. Like people helping me with tech support, people helping me with thumbnails, that's like the person who's been working with me has been with me almost since the very beginning, almost. And, just doing such an amazing job. And I am so thankful for those that are watching and sharing, people who are helping with finance, right? Who are like on Patreon, people who are sponsoring and stuff like that too. That is something that I'm crazy grateful for because this would not happen without like God's inspiration or the Holy Spirit inspiring them. I think it's, for me, just from my perspective, because I'm the one who's doing it and I'm the one receiving all this help from everyone around the world, I just see how much, like, it's incredible how much God has done in the last 3 weeks, right? And for me, it's just, it's so weird, like, not weird, it's so amazing that it's only been 3 weeks since I restarted this channel because it feels like so many things have happened. It really does. Many miracles, and I am grateful, I am thankful, and I will talk about those things in the future too, so I truly hope that all of us, I hope that all of us can consider ourselves as a team, right? Have that goal to spread the gospel to the ends of the earth, especially what Sunsteam said. He's like, I want, he really, really hopes for 1 million internet followers before he passes. And I think this is a huge thing that Sunseam wants, right? Huge meaning, it's not like, oh, it's such a huge thing to get 1 million. It's huge meaning, I have no, I don't know what Sunseam knows. I don't know why he said 1 million before he passes, but he sees something that we don't, right? He just sees it. He sees it. We don't see it. But if we can get this going really well, I know that we can reach new heights, that there's something in there that Sunseam saw when he prayed or something else, the inspiration, what God told him, we got to get to 1 million before he passes away, because that's going to be setting some stage or foundation for the future. So I really hope that all of us can just look at that. Sunseam says 1 million internet followers before he passes. That is something that I look at and say, okay, there's something there. There's a reason why he said that number, and I hope that all of us can reach it together, that we can, especially here on MSD, not MSD, but the Rebel Pastor channel. I really sincerely hope that the Rebel Pastor channel can hit a big chunk of that 1 million. Like, even for me, my big thing is 100,000. Like, that's the big one, to get that plaque, right? I don't know if 1 million is possible. That's something that that's thinking way too ahead for me right now. But the big goal that I have right now is definitely 100,000 subscribers, which is, which I look at and say that, well, 100,000 is a lot, because, you have less than 1% that actually reach 100,000. But our first goal right now is 10,000 subscribers. So, every subscriber that we get is just punching towards, what's that word? Not punching towards. It's kind of getting closer to the 1 million, right? And that's what we want. That's what we really, really want. So even if I look at the statistics right now, like I said, we're over 100 people over the last 115 people over the last 3 weeks, new subscribers. And all of our numbers are off the charts at the moment. They really are. They're really, really off the charts, meaning they're so much higher than they were before. Right? So that's why I am grateful, I am thankful, and I can see God is really helping out with this channel. And I hope it's something that we can really grow together. So with all the different things that pop up, like, all the different things popping up, like, what is it? What was I just going to say? Like, I was going to say all the different things popping up. What are the different things that are popping up right now? Oh, yeah. Sorry. I just had a brain fart. With my channel, like, there's shorts coming up every day. There's, like, little clips from the podcast that come up every day, like shorter clips and stuff. And I hope that since they're coming out every day, just click on them, let them run. Even you don't have to listen to them if you don't want to, or just share them with people you think that would really, really be able to, really be able to benefit from the content that we're putting out there too. Okay, so huge shout outs to everyone who has helped directly, indirectly, tech, prayers, finance, watching, sharing, watching the live streams. People who are, there are some people that turn it on just to support. They're not even listening because they're working. So they just put it on their phones, put it on mute, and they just keep it on. And even that, I am so thankful for. And that's okay, because they're helping the algorithm just to have this many people. I'm hoping at least 50 people turn out for this week's live stream. I hope that's something that will, we can hit at least 50 people for this one. We grew by 16. Like, our peak was at 31, then it went to 47. So hopefully we can hit over 50 for this week's live stream too. Like, I'm grateful. I think even, like, if I am this happy about this, I think God is even more thankful and more happy, right, for everyone who's taking action on internet ministry on one way or another, whether it's in Korea, whether it's in Japan or Taiwan or any other country. I think it's something that we are doing, that we are making God happy by putting the words into action, right? Even now, because of YouTube and because of that dream I had and knowing my direction, like, one of the things that's really exciting for me, like, I'm really excited about the unknown future of what's going to happen this year. Right? It's so interesting because, remember when I was telling you before, like, I was trying to find a mission, didn't know if I want to do this, so much uncertainty. I have the same amount of uncertainty now as I did before, but it's so interesting. When I didn't have direction, The uncertainty was stressful, but now that I have direction, the future is actually exciting. Isn't that so different and so weird, like the way the human brain works? Like it's just like before, when I didn't have direction, I have no idea what's going to happen. But I am thankful, and I'm looking forward to what will happen in the future now that I have direction. It's so interesting to me to see how quickly the mind can change, and just from a little small switch in how we think, right? In uncertainty, no one knows the future ever, but why are some people excited and why are some people like stressed out? We have, there's the uncertainty is just the same, but the one big change is just knowing that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, right? It just changes my outlook on uncertainty. And, even right now, it's like, it's okay not to know, but it's exciting and I look forward to it. What's going to happen next? And there's going to be ups and downs. And it's interesting how the human mind works. Like we thrive off of like things that are meaningful to us, or knowing why we're doing something, or knowing that we're supposed to be doing something, and that will allow us to, go through that uncertainty without stress. It kind of reminds me of even like on an extreme example would be the martyrs in the early Christian church that gave up their lives for Jesus, right? For God's history, because they knew where they're going. They had direction, right? That they're even willing to give it up, where people, imagine if they were uncertain about Jesus, do you think they'd really give up their life for that? So, this all these thoughts stem from this one point that came from the Sunday message. And this point for the Sunday message keeps popping up in my head, all right? And I think I'm going to put it into my my live stream too, is when Sunseem said that, like, why did people leave, right? It says, and Sunseem said they were stuck on grace. Grace is the flesh and truth is the bones, right? Have you ever thought about how powerful that statement is? The flesh, your body goes up and down. You gain weight, you lose weight, it goes up and down, but the bones remain the same. It's the bones are the structure. It holds the body together, right? If we stand on grace alone, that's like someone going to church, hearing a very inspiring message, then they feel something in their heart, and that feeling will only last so long. And if there's no truth behind it, there's no structure, the body just collapses. And it really made me think about those in this history that left, and they were more to grace than they were on truth. Grace was more important. But it's true, right? It's true that we are saved by grace, right? As the Bible says, we are saved by grace, not by our actions. But what does that mean? That saved by grace means that Jesus came to, Jesus gave up his life, died on the cross for us. That's by grace. We didn't do anything to deserve it, but Jesus died for us by grace, right? That's the grace. But how many people, if you live just on grace, are eventually going to leave? Because once that feeling goes away, you're done. And it just shows us how much we really have to understand the truth, right? It's not grace that sets us free. It is truth that sets us free. Because it is truth that allows us to realize the Messiah, the one that God sent. The grace inspires us. The grace gives us that motivation and inspiration to say, wow, this is so great. It is by grace that Jesus died for us, but it is by truth that keeps us here. And as long as we are strong in truth, it doesn't matter how much the grace moves up or down or how much we feel, right? As long as we have truth. And I'm a strong advocate that we should be going over the 30 lessons over and over again. Sunseem said 9 times you should be listening to it, right? You should be listening to it 9 times over. And we have to get to the point where we fully understand what it means. Like, here's something very interesting, because last week, I do lecture training every week for a campus member. And the one thing that's kind of cool is I was realizing the exact opposite of this week's message, right? And I think that's one of the issues that we deal with when it comes to the 30 lessons, right? So I do lecture training for a campus member, and they got the truth. Like, when they hear the 30 lessons, they got the truth. They get the points. Peter the fish. Fish is a person, right? The sun didn't stop. Change your perception. The Bible's not literal kind of thing, right? Oh, there are parables in the Bible. It's very simplified, right? That when they learn the word in truth, meaning fish is the word. And they learn too much just on truth, just the skeleton. That when they look at the 30 lessons, it's boring to them because they already know the answer. They already know what the answer is going to be. What they don't know is about putting grace onto the lecture, right? Sansim said that the 30 lessons is the skeleton, but you must put flesh onto the skeleton. Because it's kind of like opposite of this week's message. And it's kind of like, hey, you got to learn the truth. You got to know the truth absolutely. Know it really good inside out. However, even truth by itself, right? It doesn't push you to move. You know what I mean? It's the grace that pushes you to move. Like, if it's just truth, then it becomes very static, like a statistic. It's boring. It's predictable. Yeah. We know fish is a person. But if you add grace, what happens? When you add grace, then it becomes inspiring and powerful, taking the words, taking the truth, adding flesh to it so people understand it even more deeply. Like what Sunsim was saying is, don't just have grace, you need truth. But Sunsim's not saying that truth, just have truth and that's it. And what I was thinking about is, you know what people need? People need grace and truth. We need both. Like I'm doing lecture training, and I've only done 2 lecture trainings. Peter and the Fish. Oh no, I've done Sunstop, 3 divisions, and those are the only 2 I've done over the last 4 weeks. Right? We do reviews and stuff. And here's the crazy part. I already know they know the truth. They know the truth aspect of it, but I have to pour grace onto it. And I'm telling you guys right now, the 4 times we met, 2 times on 3 divisions, 2 times on Sunstop, this campus member has cried every single time. It's grace and truth. We need both, right? Yeah, like what Sunsim's point was on the Sunday messages, if you focus only on one, there's a big problem, right? There is a big problem if you focus only on one. We need both. Truth is the structure. It's what keeps us there. It makes us to realize, like I talked to another friend of mine, and they were telling me about how much they had to rethink about life from what happened in 2023. But the one thing they could not get away from was the word and Sunsim. Like they couldn't get away from that. Like that was so strong to them that they couldn't just step away. That even right now they are like working so hard, teaching newcomers and stuff like that too. Like that is such a big thing. And it's a big difference. And I think that's something that we have to recognize and realize is that truth is like, that's the static thing that never changes. And when we look at it, we're like, how can I deny that? Like that is incredible what Sunsim did. It's incredible how much we know about the Bible. It's incredible. You can't get away from that, right? And then we have the grace where someone can take the truth and they will use that truth, cook it, to solve our issues in life. That's inspiring too, right? Don't you think that is like isn't that something that you look at and say, wow, like wow, the truth is so powerful that it's solving my problems right now. It inspires us. It brings us deeper into God. It shows like it brings God to life. Where you're like, truth is there, like, okay, I got the truth. This is enough for me to, it's my foundation. I stay in this history. But then what happens? When you have the grace and God is working in your life and he sees, he's helping you each and every day. I think the most incredible thing is, the most incredible thing about grace is it kind of makes God living in the present. Because you took that truth and you were able to resolve all the issues or all the problems that I was dealing with right now. There's this one, I was teaching lecture training. And so interesting that this person is teaching Sunstop when they're going through that same thing where they have too many things going on in life. And after teaching it, like they're crying. And then, after we're done, they go straight to the sanctuary and they're just praying. Like they're getting an answer. And I think that's something that we have to look at it from that perspective and like, oh, this is what we really have to understand properly and deeply. And when we understand this is going to be like, okay, I got it now, right? This is what the word is saying. This is what God is saying to me right now, right? So I hope it's something that we can really understand each and every day, that we can just go on with grace and truth, right? A lot of people I know don't know the truth. They don't know the words enough. Right? If you don't know the 30 lessons enough, you're not going to get the Sunday messages, because the Sunday message is based on the foundation of the Bible and the 30 lessons. That's what it's based on. And that's why a lot of things are going to be confusing. But we have to realize and recognize, no, it's much, much different. All right? So that is a bunch of the things that I was thinking about, and hope it's something that you guys can really open your hearts and your minds to even more each and every day. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is, that's the first segment for today. Hope it's something that, if you have any comments or anything, go ahead, leave it in the comments below. And after this, we have the Bible history word study. We're starting from Genesis chapter 26, so that's going to be pretty fun, right? We're going to go over the story of Isaac and slowly into Jacob, right? So very, very interesting when you go into the Bible step by step. And also, of course, we have Health is Happiness a little bit later. And I believe it's going to be Dr. Abe once again. He's going to talk about, oh no, it's not going to be Dr. Abe. It's going to be Dr. Giovanni. And he's going to talk about celiac disease, okay? So I hope you guys will really enjoy this too. All right, so let's get into the first music break of the day.
2023. We've all come a long way. Many different stories, but we're all on the same journey. Many, many ups and downs, but we're all still around. Many, many, many lessons, but each one came with a blessing. Let's not forget for where we come from when we make this confession. Some people just want to watch the world burn. As for you and I, let's set ourselves on fire, shine a light so bright that will make the people say, burning life, Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for our downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life. Who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say, born sinner, never could be ill. I know I'm back from the dead, yeah, the Lord is my healer. I took the red pill, that's why I call him teacher. When you learn about the spirit, oh, there ain't nothing realer. The one you learn from determines your entire destiny. Learn from the one who taught about eternity. Cloud craving, paper chasing, the joy is only temporary. I don't wanna do the same thing, so I hard to count the vanity. I keep my eyes on the prize, I'll never sell my soul to the devil in disguise. With both hands on each side, I'm holding on to dear life. I keep my guard up, never back down. When it goes down, I call on the Christ. Spiritual battle, answer the call. It's Call of Duty, modern warfare, put the armor of God. They're fighting Lucy with a rock, I got atomic bombs. Love the Lord your God and all your brothers once your demons fall. Don't be deceived, know who the ops is. Keep the unity and peace, go far way across this. Came to preach the word of God like I'm born in Tarsus. Here to testify the things I've seen on road to Damascus. He's the real deal, the real thing. Be glad you heard the King's speech. Blessed are those who reach the end and get to hear the Lord speak. GODs, POC, we fulfilled everything. Burning life, kerosene, burning life, legacy.
You will never see me stop in the future. The life that fulfills God's will continue. Everyone thinks I'm unfortunate because I go through suffering. But inside of me it's different. Because I walk the path of eternal life.
Burning life, Look at the flames in my eyes, watch it burn, but don't stare too long, you might lose your sight. Some people gunning for our downfall, but they'll never see our demise. Burning life, who's the one? I'm the one, he's the one. Are you the one? No, we're the ones who keep the fire going till the day we die, till they see the light, make it bright, till we hear the people say,
like Mary poured out her perfume on Jesus' feet, I must pour out my heart, mind, and love on the one who saved me.
All right, so let's get into today's word study. And of course, every single Wednesday, we do have the Bible history word study. And we've gone over 25 chapters in the book of Genesis. So moving along, Genesis, one of my favorite books. It's got like the original stories of the patriarchs and stuff like that too. So I'm very, very excited about this word study that we're going over. Let's start off with chapter 26, okay? So chapter 26 says there isn't, one thing you do need to know is Isaac's life, there isn't really much about it, right? There isn't much information about Isaac's life. Like Abraham has a long story, Jacob has a long story, Joseph has this big story too, but Isaac's story is really short, right? There's not much about it, but what we do know is Isaac is setting the condition for the personal level, right? The personal level of faith. So remember, Abraham is the one that sets the condition for the time period. Isaac sets the condition for the individual. His son Jacob, who has 12 sons, which is the 12 tribes of Israel, right? Jacob, he sets the condition for the family. And of course, Joseph sets the condition for the entire nation. And he saves Israel from the great famine, right? So we're going into this, and remember, since it's more of an individual, we're probably not going to, maybe that's the reason why there's not a huge story around it, but let's get into it. So what's interesting in this chapter is it starts off with a famine, which means that the area that Abraham lived in, like Canaan and Egypt area, was very much known for famine. So it wasn't uncommon that famines were happening. So when we see like, oh, there's a famine, like, the famine isn't the thing to be shocked by. It's only shocking when there's a famine that's so bad, like that everyone is dying. Like that's where, when God says that, yeah, there's some normal things in each region, in each area, but how do we know it's a judgment from God is if it's something that is beyond, that is extreme, right? So verse 2-6, it says that the Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt, live in the land where I tell you to live. Stay in this land for a while, and I will be with you and will bless you. For to you and your descendants I will give all these lands and will confirm the oath I swore to your father Abraham." Then of course, your descendants will be as numerous as stars in the sky, and it's all because of his father, right? It's all because of Abraham, right? So Isaac stays in that area, which is called Gerar. Now, it's interesting because Isaac didn't do anything to deserve this. God is keeping his promise to Abraham, not to Isaac. So you see here already how huge the condition set by the Father is, like how big it really is. It shows that sometimes you're being blessed not because of what you have done, it's because of what your ancestors have done. Like, that makes me think a lot more deeply about my grandfather, all the amazing conditions that he set in his life. And it makes me realize that some of us are starting with more, right? We start with more blessings than others, not because of what we've done, but because of our ancestors, right? It wouldn't be any different like wealth being handed down from generation to generation, right? They've done it, they've set the condition, and this is why they're able to pass it down to their ancestors, right? And we see in the Bible, this is a very, very big thing, because when you think about it from God's perspective, or from a man, like a father or any person's perspective, one of the things that they do look out for is the next generation. And imagine you do something so great for God, and God's like, you know what? I'm going to do something so great for you. And what is that? I'm going to take care of your kids. Like, that is huge. I watch like YouTube and stuff where you have Undercover Boss, where they set up scholarships or do things for their employers, their employees' children, and they cry because that's what they really want. Right? So you see here, like this passing on of blessings is such a big thing. And I think we have to realize also for ourselves that from the spiritual perspective, what we're doing right now is what are we passing on to the next generation of Providence? And if you think about it physically, those of you who have children, those of you who have families, what are you passing to the next generation? Like that's such a big thing. Right? So let's move on to verse 7. It says, in verse 7, basically, Isaac is in that area of Gerar, right? Which is the same king before Abimelech, Okay, the same king where Abraham did the exact same thing where he says his wife is his sister. Isaac says, Rebecca is my sister. And, here's Abimelech, and he sees like deja vu. All right. So here he is, Isaac, Abraham's son, is in his area with his sister, Rebecca. And the king one day looks out the window and sees Isaac like caressing his sister, and then realizes, I've seen this before. Oh my gosh. And he goes straight up. Because remember what happened last time? Last time he was going to take Sarah as his wife, gets a dream like, you know what? You're all cut off. And he's like, what? Like, that's crazy kind of thing, right? And when you think about this, it's very, very interesting, right? That, God, Abimelech's seen it before. He knew how mad God was. And if anyone does this to the man of God, he's like, okay, this is not gonna end well. And right away, he's like, Isaac, all right, your dad did the exact same thing. All right, you just gotta be honest with me, because I don't want to deal with your God. And he basically makes a decree that no one touches their family. Because he knows how serious it is. It's like, imagine if someone took your wife and then they would be cursed. Our land would be cursed, right? So it's kind of like a deja vu, the exact same thing that happened to Abraham. From verse 12, it says that Isaac kind of gets crazy blessed. He becomes super wealthy, so much to the point he was envied by the Philistines, right? So, he was asked to move out, go somewhere else, and Isaac becomes so wealthy and rich, he moves into a valley, right? Like, remember, he was so rich, he was envied. And it's really interesting because, when I look at, like, what happens when he moves to the valley, I think is very interesting because Isaac's character, it's so different than human beings today. So he digs up a well, there's water. Someone comes over, disputes, and says, hey, that's our water. He's like, all right. He goes somewhere else, digs another well. Same thing happened. He's like, that's our water. He's like, all right. And he just moves along. He just moves on. Finally, the third well was okay, and he just stays there. Like, for me, I'm just like, wow, that's kind of a great character. It's like, oh, it's yours, okay, let's move on. Oh, it's yours, okay, let's move on, right? I don't think people would be like that today. It's like, hey, I put in the work. I'm the one who dug the well. I did this, and there'd be like lawsuits and stuff. He's like, it's yours? All right, I don't want to fight about it. Oh, this one's yours too? All right, I don't want to fight. And then he finds a place where it belongs to him. Right? And then from verse 28, Abimelech comes to him and he's like, hey, I just got to, basically he wants to make a treaty with him. Right? He's like, we know absolutely that God is with you. Like, we see how you're blessed. We see all these things. So let's make an agreement. Let's make a treaty. You do us no harm and we will do you no harm. Right? And we're going to send you, and we'll send you away peacefully because you are blessed by God. And the one thing I noticed that I find very I admire is they are so God-centered. Even if it's not the same God, they are so God-centered. They're like, okay, this guy's from God. This guy's from God. We don't want to mess with him. So because, like here, there is, like, people are so against God in society today. But back then, at least it was way more God-centered. Like, remember we was talking about last week how Jacob gets his, we'll get into it, right? So, actually, I didn't talk about it last week. It's actually this week. So, chapter 26 ends there where there's a big treaty between Isaac and Abimelech and all the kings over there in that area. Now, chapter 27 is, it happens where Jacob steals the blessing from Esau. So remember that Jacob already bought the birthright. The birthright was bought from Esau already. But then there's a blessing that the firstborn gets. Okay? And this blessing is, like, especially coming from the man of God, it comes true. Okay? So this is where Sunsim actually talks about Rebecca being a very wise wife. This is where the wisdom of a good wife comes in. Like, how wise was Rebecca? She overhears what's happening, that Isaac is ready to, he's going to pass pretty soon. So he wants to give that blessing to Esau. She overhears and tells Jacob, go prepare. Put on this hairy fur so you feel like your brother. So you got to understand that the mother played such a great role in this blessing. A lot of people are saying that, oh, Jacob deceived his own father. And the answer is, it came from his wife. It was the mother that was the wise one that did all these things. And we have to also remember that the deception this was God's will. It was God's will that Isaac didn't recognize or realize. Isaac was just so enamored with Esau, the hunter. His love for Esau blinded him from realizing that he was not the person that God chose. Because remember, when Jacob and Esau were born, they were prophesied over, right? Or even before they were born. And the prophecy was the older will serve the younger. That was the prophecy. That's something that Isaac and Rebekah both heard. So both of them knew the prophecy, but it seems that Isaac was not able to see this. And it's probably symbolism that Isaac was becoming very weak in eyesight because he did not see God's will, right? He didn't see the will of God properly. And that's why in verse 29, Jacob comes in, steals the blessing, and the blessing was basically, be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you, which basically means that whoever gets this blessing will be the one that is going to be lording over the other. And that was exactly what the prophecy said, that the younger would be, the older will serve the younger. And we know that back then, the oldest son is the most important one. But, here we are kind of just like, they're twins. Like, they're like a second apart. Not even a second apart. He was grabbing the heel as they're coming out. So they technically came out almost at the exact same time, right? And this is when you can see that, this is much different than we think, right? Not just, oh, he's deceiving. Oh, why did he do this type of thing, right? So we move to verse 35 to 37, and this is when Esau finds out that he lost his blessing, and Esau's pissed. He even says in verse 36, he took my birthright and now he's taken my blessing, right? And basically asks his father, do you have anything, blessings reserved for me? And Isaac says, no, I made him lord over you, made all of his relatives his servants, and I have sustained him with grain and new wine. So what can I possibly do for you? And this is very interesting because back in our days here, the blessing doesn't really mean much, right? The blessing coming from the father to the children, it doesn't really mean much anymore. It's so interesting to understand this concept of receiving, especially a blessing from the central figure. If you receive a blessing from the central figure, if you receive something from Sunstream too, right? Like, do we really understand how powerful that is? How many times he said something that all we need to do is put into action and then it's going to work? It's something where it's like a promise. Once it's stated, you can't take it back. Which also means that if you bless the wrong person, you've made a huge mistake. Like, even look at the blessing from God to Abraham. God's blessing to Abraham was so big that even when Abraham slept with Hagar and had his first son Ishmael, because it's from Abraham and God gave that blessing, no matter what, Ishmael gets the blessing and his descendants are as numerous as the stars in the sky too. That's how big it is, right? That's why for God, the word is everything. He gives his word. And then this wise wife, Rebekah, becomes even more wise after she hears that Esau wants to kill Jacob. And basically, Rebekah goes to her husband and says, I'm disgusted with living because of these Hittite women. If Jacob takes a wife from among the women of this land, from Hittite women like these, my life will not be worth living. Basically, she says this to send Jacob away so he doesn't get killed by Esau. Right? So when I look at this, I'm like, wow, it's pretty interesting and intense. Right? It really is. So that's chapter 27. Let's go to chapter 28. So this continues as, now it continues from the last chapter where Rebecca's like, no way this is going to happen kind of thing, right? And then Isaac tells Jacob, don't get a wife from this land, go back home. Go to your uncle Laban's house and, go get a wife over there, which is the plan that Rebekah, the wise wife, did. So this is not just the plan from Rebekah's perspective to get Jacob away from Esau so he doesn't die, but this is also from God's perspective, which was supposed to happen, right? For the future lineage, right? Because, God also talked about not intermarrying with the people of the land. So what's quite interesting is Esau overheard that both his parents didn't approve of the Hittite woman, and he's actually married to one. And when he heard what the parents said, he purposely went and married a descendant of Ishmael to spite his parents' wishes, right? So you kind of get to see what the character of Esau is compared to Jacob, right? You kind of get to see that. So let's move into verse 10. And this is where the name Bethel comes from. And, we have a ton of churches even in Providence with the name Bethel. There are churches in Christianity named Bethel too. So how did it happen? So on his way to Padan Aram, where his uncle lives, Jacob rests in this area. It is called Luz, okay? So he had a dream in which he saw a stairway resting on the earth with its top reaching to the heavens, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And there above it stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, right? So basically God is like, I am going to be with you. I will watch over you wherever you go, and I'll bring you back to this land, right? I will not leave you until I've done what I've promised, right? So this is quite powerful too, what God is saying to Jacob. So Jacob realizes, wow, this is the place where God dwells. This is the house of God, and that's where the word Bethel comes from, meaning house of God. So when people say it's Bethel Church, it's saying that this is the house of God church, right? This is the house of God. So that's kind of where this terminology of Bethel comes from. We move to verse 20, and Jacob is like so happy. He's like, you know what? If God is going to be with me, and if God's watching over me on this journey, you know what? He's giving me everything, right? He's giving me everything. So he takes the stone that he was sleeping on, and he set it up with a pillar, and he poured oil on it, right? And he set up an altar there, right? He said, this is now Bethel, right? This stone that I set up as a pillar will be God's house, and of all that you give me, I will give you a tenth, right? It's so, like, everything here, when I look at the Bible, it is so God-centered compared to now. If you had that dream, you're not going to set up an altar. You're not going to be like, I'm going to give you a name for this place or whatever it is, right? Like, people today are more untrusting, right? Isn't it kind of true? We're more untrusting. Like, wait, is this really God? Is this really your dream? Is this really? And if we become too trusting, people think that we're naive. Like, oh, come on, was that dream really this? Oh, really, you saw that number 316? What does that mean? Like, we look at that and we're actually more untrusting than we are trusting, which is kind of interesting, right? So this is where kind of Bethel comes from. We move to chapter 29, where Jacob arrives at Uncle Laban's house in Padan Aram, right? And Jacob meets with Rachel for the first time, and very excited. He goes to his uncle's house. They're very, very excited to see him. And his uncle Laban says, what can I do? You can't work for free. What can I do for you in return? And Jacob says, give me Rachel in marriage in return for 7 years of work. And then it basically, because of his love for Rachel, which is quite romantic, he says, 7 years seem like a few days. However, we know the story where Leah was given instead of Rachel because it was the customs of the land. And what Sunseem said was that Jacob should have known this. He should have understood the customs of the land, so it actually was his fault. So basically, he was, the bait and switch happened. He wakes up next to Leah. He's like, what? What's going on? And then he's like, what'd you do? And he's like, dude, this is how it works in the customs of this land. I just can't give you the younger daughter first, right? So he says, work another 7 years, right? So what happens is, he gets Rachel a week later and then works another 7 years for the father, right? And, this is where it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad because he never wanted Leah. And if you look at verse 31, God took pity on Leah because she was not loved. Tell me that, guys. She wasn't loved because his eyes were set on Rachel. Right? And then, like verse 32, God blesses her with a son, and name is Reuben. And you know what the name Reuben means? The Lord has seen my misery. That's the name. It's meaningful. That's where it comes from. Like, they named their children. They all have meaningful names. Where today, we give people names because it sounds cool. Right? Oh, the meaning is not even as big. It's more of it sounds cool. Right? So she ended up with 4 sons. Right? Before Rachel even had one. It was like Reuben, Simeon, Levi, which is, the priestly tribe. But the 4th son is Judah. Judah is the tribe in which Jesus came from. So that's very interesting how Judah's lineage, Jesus' lineage, you would think would come from Rachel, because Rachel was the one that was loved that much. But the lineage of Jesus comes from Leah, the one who was not loved. And that's kind of interesting. Maybe it's more of a foreshadowing because Jesus was not loved by his own people. Like, I'm not saying that's what Sunseam said, but it's quite interesting how he came from Leah and not from Rachel. Okay? So, yeah, there it is, guys. That is chapters 26 to 29. We'll go into chapter 30 from next week. But I hope you guys enjoy it. That is the Bible history word study for today. And I hope that you guys will gain a lot from this too. And this is kind of the bones, the truth that we need to know to make us strong in our faith. All right. So before we get into today's Health is Happiness, let's move into the last music break of the day.
Yeah, rise up to the challenge, armed with the word in action, belt to the truth, fasten, shield of faith in one hand, sword of the spirit I'm slaying, no mercy I'm praying, everyone thinks I lost, but now I'm turning Super Saiyan, I gotta be new, gotta be great, I only gotta win this thing, fix the mistakes, fix who I am, all I wanna do is change, gotta be brave, gotta be tough, no more time for delaying, it's just training, all those times of pain, off, pushing my limits, only God, I'm trying to be better, I'm trying to feel God, enemies watching, they want you to fall, but you have to be better, you have to give it your all, every day I make myself, but I know it's not easy, this is the life I chose and I know my spirit's breathing, the battle has only begun and I may take damage, but if I fall, all I know how to do one thing, rise up to the challenge, armed with the word in action, belt to the truth, fasten, shield of faith in one hand, sword of the spirit I'm slaying, no mercy I'm praying, everyone thinks I lost, but now I'm turning Super Saiyan, I'm Goku turning Super Saiyan, I'm charged up, now I'm playing, on the mount like Sinai, I connect with God like Wi-Fi, receive the word, always praying, spiritual path where I'm staying, everyone thinks I lost, but I'm always with him, so you know I'm prevailing, protecting myself from Satan, armed with the truth, now my angels will shoot like, now I'm at my truest form, I'm trying to really be the greatest, the power level can't contain it, my energy is never draining, look how far we have made it, unlocking levels never hesitated, there's no try, you either just do it or don't, so fix your thoughts instead, everybody makes mistakes, just gotta take notes, can afford to do it again, life is so easy, if you just do what is right and just follow what's real, victory comes through skill, gotta stay on course, time to kill. Time to rise and shine, thinking of the past and never forget. God is Lord, by your side, holding your hand, dry your eyes, trust in Lord every night and day. He'll never let you go, don't fall away. Be bold, be brave, and with all your heart, love the Lord to the end of time. Rise up to the challenge, armed with the word in action, held to the truth, fasten, shield of faith in one hand, sword of the spirit I'm slaying, no mercy I'm praying. Everyone thinks I lost, but I'm turning Super Saiyan.
Okay, so let's get into our final segment of today's Wednesday podcast. Of course, we have Health is Happiness, and today we have Dr. Giovanni, also from Australia. Man, Australia has a ton of doctors, and he'll be talking about celiac disease. Okay, so everyone, all the way from Australia, this is Dr. Gio with Health is Happiness.
Hello, my name is Dr. Giovanni and I'm back with another medical segment today. I'm a third-year doctor currently training in Melbourne, Australia, and today I wanted to talk to you about a very common condition known as celiac disease. As a reminder, everything we discuss today is not medical advice and should not be taken as such, but rather general medical information. So like we mentioned, we're going to talk about celiac disease. You might be thinking, what is celiac disease? Well, it's a very common autoimmune disorder. So autoimmune meaning it's your own immune system attacking your body, and it affects the small bowel, so the small intestine. And it usually occurs in response to gluten, which is a protein on many food grains that we eat. And so it causes gut inflammation, gut changes, and as a result, you can get malabsorption of nutrients, fatigue, weight loss. It has a major impact on people's lives because to control the condition, they can't eat gluten, which really limits their diet, especially in the modern Western diet, and also impacts their quality of life because of making those dietary changes and the social consequences of making those dietary changes. Who gets celiac disease? Like I said, it's really common. The global population prevalence is about 1%, meaning 1 in every 100 people on Earth, approximately speaking, will have celiac disease at any point in time. And it tends to occur in populations where people are genetically predisposed and then upon that foundation have the environmental exposure to gluten-containing foods. And it's common in people with autoimmune conditions. You might think of type 1 diabetes or Graves' disease, an autoimmune thyroid condition. People with those conditions or a family history of those conditions, we often see that they're at higher risk of developing celiac disease too. Now, what causes celiac disease? Like we said, there's the genetic component and then the environmental component where you're exposed to gluten. If we think a bit more about the anatomy and physiology of it all, the human gastrointestinal tract is primarily important for your digestion of food. And so you swallow your food, goes down the esophagus, into the stomach, acids and enzymes start to break down the food, and then it gets down to the small bowel or the small intestine, where your body will start to absorb important nutrients. It's in that small intestine where there's grooves that give the characteristic anatomy or features of the small intestine. And in someone with celiac disease, all that inflammation and all that damage from the immune system causes changes to those grooves. And as a result, absorption is not so good. And then they start to get swelling and all the symptoms and the abdominal discomfort and the diarrhea because of all that inflammation and all those changes happening in the small bowel. And this happens once there's exposure to gluten-containing foods. So people often not have any symptoms if they don't have gluten-containing foods, but that's not always the case. And what are the clinical features or the symptoms of celiac disease? So we think about this in two categories broadly: the symptoms and signs that affect the gastrointestinal tract and those that are extra gastrointestinal, that is, that affect the body outside of the gastrointestinal tract. And so in the first category, we think of things like chronic or recurrent diarrhea, constipation, steatorrhea, which is our way of saying fatty diarrhea, which is as bad as you can imagine, malabsorption, unintentional weight loss, abdominal pain, abdominal bloating or distension. And these symptoms can be quite similar to irritable bowel syndrome, if you have heard of that or know somebody with that, or otherwise even refractory or severe lactose intolerance can be quite similar too. In terms of the extra gastrointestinal features, we think of things like the nutrient deficiencies like iron, folate, vitamin B12, and that can cause people to become anemic, which is where they have a low hemoglobin level and they get tired very easily. They can have deranged blood test markers for their liver. They can get a rash that's classically known as dermatitis herpetiformis. They can get fatigue, recurrent headaches, reduced fertility. They can even get mouth ulcers known as aphthous stomatitis. They can have weakened bones and premature osteoporosis. And they can even get damage and burning of nerves in the hands and feet called peripheral neuropathy. So there's quite a number of different signs and symptoms that go along with celiac disease. Now, how do we diagnose celiac disease? The important thing to consider when you're trying to make a diagnosis of celiac disease is that the tests that we use to diagnose it are more effective and more reliable if the patient is on a gluten-containing diet. Because if they go off their gluten-containing diet, many of their symptoms and signs start to resolve, and then the tests can give us a false negative. So we do these tests when someone is on a gluten diet, not off it. And the tests that we do are blood tests, firstly. There's mainly the tests that we would use are tests for antibodies that are part of the autoimmune response. And so we would look at TTG IgA, which is tissue transglutaminase IgA antibody, which is overall the preferred blood test to use as a first test. And then there's a second antibody that we look at, which is an antibody targeting the gliadin part of the gluten, and that's called DGP IgG, deamidated gliadin peptide IgG protein, which is a second helpful blood test. The definitive test, or the most ideal and reliable test that we can do, is something called endoscopy with a small bowel biopsy. And that's our gold standard test to diagnose celiac disease. The way that works is that you'll have to go to a theatre or a surgical centre where an anaesthetist will sedate you, and then a gastroenterologist will put a long cord with a camera down in your mouth, down the esophagus, down the stomach, and then into the small intestine. And there they'll have a look, and they'll look for the classical changes of the gut that they can identify, and then they'll take some biopsies, which are some small samples, send those to the lab, and then the lab will have a look at them under the microscope, and they'll try and confirm what they're seeing under the microscope if it does look like the changes that are characteristic of celiac disease, and make a diagnosis there. Now, what are some of the potential complications that occur with celiac disease? And mind you, some of these complications may take months to years to even decades to occur, but they're still important to be aware of. So in the shorter term, some common things include weight loss, lethargy, and just generally failure to thrive, not growing as well as you should, not reaching your full height and weight as you ought to. And then we mentioned before a lot about nutritional deficiencies that occur from the malabsorption. And this is really important, like we said, that you can develop anemia. You can have, from the low vitamin D, low calcium absorption, weakened bones like osteoporosis. One of the rarer but most concerning complications is the increased risk of certain cancers. So there's an increased risk of lymphoma as well as gastrointestinal tract cancer itself. And so for this reason, increased monitoring of people with celiac disease is often something that needs to be arranged from the point of view of these cancers. Now, how do we manage celiac disease? So it's like most conditions in medicine today, we say it's multimodal, meaning there's many modes or methods that we want to apply to optimize the treatment of the person to help with their symptoms. There's an easy mnemonic that you can use to help, which is the word celiac itself. If you start with CO of celiac, then you get consultation with a dietitian, CO for consultation. And so a big part of managing their disease is having a dietitian on board who can provide counselling and advice to completely remove gluten-containing foods from the diet and to help make sure that their diet is nutritious and able to cover for any deficiencies that they are at risk of having or may already have. And so the principal dietary things that they would need to avoid include foods made of wheat, rye, and barley. They all need to be avoided completely. Oats can be tried with caution. Sometimes people get away with that fine. Rice, corn, buckwheat, potatoes, they're all safe. And certain other things people may need to experiment with specifically. But getting a dietitian on board as soon as possible is one of the most important things you could do. The E in celiac is for education about celiac disease, so that more people know about the condition, the more empowered they are to make the right decisions, look after themselves, and be aware of any issues that may come up along the way. L is for lifelong, because this adherence to a gluten-free diet is not temporary, it's a lifelong measure. Until we have any better treatments, this is the mainstay of therapy, which means for lifelong, they need to be off a gluten diet. The I in celiac is for identification, and that's for identification of nutritional deficiencies and then treatment of those if they're identified. And so sometimes there are overt symptoms. People may feel really tired, and you can do a blood test and see that they're anemic, they're low in iron. Sometimes people don't have symptoms, so you still want to get blood tests done to see if you are deficient in any nutrients. Other common nutritional deficiencies include vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin B12, copper, zinc, folic acid, ferritin, vitamin K. There's quite a number of things. And if you note, the vitamin A, D, and E are all your fat-soluble vitamins, and there can be sometimes poorer fat absorption in people with celiac disease, and that's why you can tend to lose those vitamins easily. A in celiac disease is for access to advocacy groups. And like we mentioned at the beginning, there's quite significant psychological and social stress associated with celiac disease, because not only do you have to change your diet in a really significant way, it also means you can't eat the foods that you want to eat with other people. You can't eat at other restaurants potentially, or places that you would want to eat at. And this affects your social life, and this just generally makes socializing, which we often do through eating, more difficult than it might otherwise be. And so it's always good to have a social support or an advocacy group connected to people with celiac disease to help them. And the last C is for continuous long-term follow-up, and usually with a multidisciplinary team, because it's a lifelong condition, and so follow-up has to be continuous. Things don't just stop when we decide that we've lost interest in the condition. It's continuous. So these are the main points that I think we should know about celiac disease. And if you've got any questions or thoughts, always feel free to let us know. Thanks, guys. That's all from me, Dr. Giovanni, today. Cheers.
And thank you so much, Dr. Gio, for another wonderful episode of Health is Happiness. Thank you for informing us and helping us to understand what celiac disease is. And I hope that many people will benefit from this and look at their diets and see like how much gluten you got in there and stuff like that too. Either way. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please leave a comment below for Health is Happiness. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have an amazing and awesome Wednesday service tonight. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know. I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know.